So if you're a DoorDash dasher, the last thing you want to do is waste your time when you're driving. That's why in this video, I'm going to show you some exact examples of prospective DoorDash orders and show you what you should accept and what you should decline. So I want you to consider a few things before we look at these examples. Number one, the overall pay. Number two, we're going to look at the total miles of the order. Number three, we're going to look at strategy, both the starting and the ending destinations. And number four, our verdict if we should accept or if we should decline. So let's get into it. I'm going to show you 7 specific examples and we're going to find out if they're worth it. All right, it's very important to consider all of these factors whenever you're considering if an order is worth it for you. I want you to think to yourself, would I accept or decline each order that we're going to review? So with that being said, let's jump in here. Example number 1. This order is for True Food Kitchen. So firstly, let's look at the pay, $12.75. That sounds pretty good. So let's turn our attention to the miles, 9.6 miles. Okay, that does sound a little bit higher. Now, this is something you're really going to have to consider for your individual marketplace. Some markets are more spread out and some markets are more dense. Something very important to know, that's your IRS business deduction. Come tax time, there's 2 different tax methods you can use when making deductions. The first is an itemized deduction. That means you're going to keep records of each and every expense related to your business. As an independent contractor, you technically are a business owner and this is your business. So for itemized deductions, you are literally going to save each and every receipt when it comes to gas, maintenance, car washes, etc. The other deduction, and usually much easier deduction, is the standard business deduction. Here the IRS is going to give you one standard deduction rate that you're going to use against your business miles. This is the method that I use just as it's easier, so for all intents and purposes today, we're going to use the standard IRS business deduction. And for driving here in 2020, you can deduct 57.5 cents per business mile. So if we take our miles here and multiply by that deduction, technically there are expenditures of $5.52 associated with this order. Here we'll call that our overall costs. So looking more into the miles here, this is a longer order, at least here in San Diego. This is basically a 10-mile order, again for about $13, but this is taking us to a different area of the market. When we first started driving down south, we're actually in La Jolla, and the ending destination is taking us into a separate mini marketplace in Del Mar. Now, if we look at the top left, it's right around that dinner shift, so it is a good time of day. And this order was actually on a pay incentive as well, an extra $3.50 per delivery bonus that's actually included in this $12.75. So what do you think? Would you accept or would you deny this order? My overall verdict, I would accept. Now, we do want to minimize farther away orders, however. I would accept this. There's good cash flow here, getting the $12.75, but overall, my shift during that day, we do want to minimize these longer orders. Hey, if you're enjoying the content so far, can you consider leaving a like? Thanks, let's get back to the video. Now let's look at this example from Jersey Mike's. This is an $11.75 order. Very, very low miles. We can see 1.7 miles. That's a deduction of just 98 cents. And when it comes to pay, $11.75 for those very short miles. So a pretty easy verdict here. My verdict, accept. Next, let's look at this order from Chipotle. It's a $3 order with a pretty low mileage, 1.9 miles. That's a deduction there of $1.09. Again, really low pay here, a pretty good time of day as well. Would you accept this order or would you decline? My verdict on this one, I would decline. The reason I would decline this one is yes, there's lower miles here, but just for the pay alone. I really would like to accept orders that are at least a minimum of $6 or $7. Hopefully this order isn't going to take too long, but for $3, and if there are any delays, we're not sure. In my opinion, it's not worth it. Now let's look at this example from Los Panchos Taco Shop. We can see here the pay $6.75 with total miles being 4.7. So looking at the miles and the marketplace, the good thing about this order is it is within the same marketplace. It's not like the first example we saw where it took us in an entirely different area of the market. And the pay is moderate here. It does fit within that window that we mentioned, $6.75. Would you accept or would you decline? My verdict, accept. This is really an average order. It isn't too bad. The pay is decent. The miles are okay. Ideally, it would be a little bit shorter. But overall, it's not a bad order. We also don't want to get overly picky when it comes to our orders. This is the good order to take, especially on a slower day, or if you're just looking to cash flow. Now let's look at this example from Urban Plates. This order pays $9.43 for 13.4 miles. And there's a tax deduction here of $7.71. Well, hopefully the first thing that stands out for you on this one are the miles. These are the longest miles that we've seen so far in these examples, 13.4 miles. But yes, there is pretty decent pay. So let me ask you, would you accept or would you decline? My verdict, decline. This order, in my opinion, just may not be worth it based on those miles alone. This is not only taking us to a different area of the marketplace, but it's asking us to drive a good amount of miles as well. Now, if you chose to accept this order, the goal there may be strictly cash flow. That means you're really just looking to generate as much gross revenue as possible and not as worried about the overall profit margin. You may also want to accept this one if you do want to end your shift in this ending area. But if that's not the case, you're going to have to drive back to this area of the marketplace. That's another 13 empty miles. Now let's look at this example from Mr. Holy Cow. This order is paying $14 for 10.1 miles. Based on those miles, there's a deduction of $5.81. And if we look at the distance or the area in the marketplace, let's look at the starting area indicated by the home icon. That's actually in one area of the marketplace in La Jolla. And the ending destination, that's in a different marketplace in Mira Mesa. But the pay is pretty exceptional here at $14. So on this one, would you accept or would you decline? My verdict, accept. Note the current location where we're at as a driver, indicated by the blue dot. Now, this isn't shown here, but my assigned area of the marketplace for this shift is in La Jolla. So I want to head south anyway. And even though this order is taking us into a different area of the marketplace, really it's not too far away. That ending location in Mira Mesa is really just into that Mira Mesa marketplace. That's only minutes away from the La Jolla area. So here's where your local expertise is really going to come into play. When you look at orders like this, yes, the miles seem longer, but you want to head south anyway, or if your order is headed in a different direction, look at actually where it's going to go. And we can see here the ending destination. If you see it's pulling you into a different area, maybe that's not necessarily a bad thing. And one more example, let's go back to Los Panchos Taco Shop. This order is paying $2.60 for 1.7 miles. That's just 98 cents in tax deductions. Obviously the same marketplace, but there is a very low pay here, but very low miles. So would you accept or would you decline? My verdict, decline. The pay here, in my opinion, is just much too low, even with the lower miles. In my opinion, you can certainly park and wait for another order in this marketplace and get a much higher paying order. So to review, whenever you're considering an order, if you want to accept it or decline it, pay isn't everything. You also want to consider the miles, specifically looking at how much am I getting paid versus how far am I driving. And then when it comes to strategy, look at areas of the marketplace. Am I ending in the same marketplace or am I being pulled to a different area? And lastly, consider any pay incentives. You want to think, am I driving on any bonuses? How busy has it been? How are tips? All of that. If you've enjoyed this video, consider leaving a like, and make sure to check out the first link in my description. That's for my Amazon storefront for the very best accessories in the delivery space. Click or tap the screen now for my most recent video, as well as a video recommended for you, and I'll see you in the next one.